And allow your awareness to draw inward. There's been so much excitement, so much beauty in the divine Ganga Arti, so much beauty in the ashram. But just allow all of that awareness to pull inward. And just allow your awareness to unhook. Volume thoda sa bada do bhaiya. Allow your awareness to unhook from all of those places around you, from all of the sights and the sounds. And just draw that awareness inward. Allow yourself to fully arrive right here to this place and this moment. Allow the awareness to merge into your breath. Don't work with the breath. Don't try to change the breath. Just allow it to be a magnet, an anchor for the awareness. As you inhale, allow yourself to breathe in this sacred atmosphere, the sacred energy of this holy place. You're breathing the molecules of oxygen. You're breathing the prana that the sages and the saints and the rishis and the yogis have been breathing for thousands of years. Take in that prana. And feel it. Feel the sacredness of the prana you breathe in. And feel it touch and illumine and awaken all of the cells of your being. Feel it flow through you. You're breathing in the energy that has flowed across the tops of the Himalayas, over the waters of Mother Ganga. The energy of awakening, the ancient and timeless energy of truth. Breathe it in. And as you breathe, notice that you're not breathing only into your physical body. You're breathing into your energetic body, into the subtle body. And the power of that energy is flowing into and through all of the different layers of who you are. Feel them open and awaken. Feel them turn on with the light that flows in. And on each exhalation, as you exhale, let go of that which is old, which is stuck. Let go of that which is not self. Anger, grudges, stories, dramas, attachments, expectations, all of this stuff that fills the drama of our life. As you exhale, just let it go and breathe it out. And make space. Allow the exhalations to clear you of that which is not self, so that on the inhalations you can breathe in more and more of that sacred, that holy, ancient and timeless prana. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. And press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. And slowly open your eyes and lower your hands. Welcome to Satsang. We always start with a question that's come from our online family who join us through the gifts of social media and technology. And then we open it up for any questions that anyone here has. So there's a microphone right here, and any questions that you have in your mind and your heart, just don't be shy. Come and ask your question. How can we surrender to the divine when our heart is still deeply attached to outcomes, especially in love and relationships? Even when the mind understands detachment, the emotions struggle. How can we lovingly let go while remaining open and true to love? And this is asked by R. Saini over Facebook. There's a beautiful teaching in the Bhagavad Gita in which Arjuna is saying to Bhagwan Krishna, how do you recognize a yogi? Like, you're talking about this yogi, but how do you recognize him? Like, how will I know if I meet one? What does one of these beings look like when they walk down the street and move through the world? And so Bhagwan Krishna goes through a whole long list, many, many, many verses. And they're beautiful verses around kindness and compassion and friendliness and equanimity and all of these beautiful virtues. But one of the things that he says is that the yogi, the wise one, is one who is in a state of equanimity between pain and pleasure, gain and loss, success and failure. There's another line in which he says that a yogi, the wise one, they're used kind of interchangeably in the Gita because he's not speaking about yogis as those who can turn their bones and muscles into pretzels, but more somebody who's embodied the true yoga. So he says, a yogi is one to whom a handful of dirt, a lump of clay, and a bar of gold are the same. Now this is really interesting. If you look at these two different teachings, they're really interesting because you think, well, a lump of clay, like it's wet, it's got a very specific texture to it. It feels nothing like a handful of dirt. It feels nothing like a brick of gold. And surely he's not saying that a yogi is one who doesn't have the subtle ability to understand what is a handful of dirt versus what is a lump of clay versus what is gold? Surely he's not saying that a yogi is one who doesn't notice whether pain is happening or pleasure is happening. Because one of the qualities of yoginess is the term vivek, which means discrimination. This Agya Chakra, where we put our tilak and where a lot of us meditate on, is the energy center, the chakra of the power of discrimination, to know the difference. The difference between truth and untruth. To see the divine in all, but it's the energy center of that power of discrimination. So Bhagwan Krishna is not saying, oh, the yogi can't tell the difference. But what he's saying is, the yogi understands that as far as the important things of life are concerned, as far as the yogi's emotional state, as far as the yogi's presence and sense of self, it is unaltered in pain or pleasure, gain or loss, success or failure. It's not that the yogi can't tell the difference. Similarly, the yogi is the same should he have a handful of dirt or a brick of gold. Again, it's not that I'm not subtly able to feel the difference. It's that that difference doesn't impact us. Now, going to the question, how do we have this level of detachment, vairagya, which goes right along with that equanimity? In order to have equanimity, you have to have vairagya. You have to have enough detachment from your preferences, from your desires, from your aversions, in order to be able to be balanced in all of these states of opposites. However, it doesn't mean that you don't care. And this is a really critical piece. I cannot tell you the number of people I've met in India in the last almost 30 years that I've been here who have said to me quite proudly, I have become very aloof. And I'm thinking, that's not such a good thing. Like, it's, sometimes somebody's body language is giving one signal and their words are giving a different signal. And I'm thinking, this body language is someone who's very proud of himself. But the words that he's saying are not words that would make me feel proud of myself. I've become very aloof. It's like, I have become so selfish. I have become very arrogant. You're like, well, not something to be so arrogant about. And what I've realized is that there's a mistranslation in these virtues and concepts around equanimity, around detachment, such that people think that being uncaring, being aloof, being indifferent is somehow the goal we're after. It is not. We are given human hearts to love. And if you look at the enlightened masters, the sages of all of our different traditions, they may have loved God in so many different names or forms or languages or ways. But one thing is true about all of them. They are oceans of compassion. They are oceans of love and caring. I remember in 2010, we previewed the soon-to-be-launched Encyclopedia of Hinduism at a very, very large event in Haridwar during the Kumbh Mela. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama came, many other saints came. And I was very blessed to be sitting just behind His Holiness. It was this huge stage with many, many rows of leaders. But I had this beautiful blessing of being just behind him. And he kept bending down. This big ceremony, massive event, and he keeps bending over. And I couldn't see what he was doing. But afterwards, I asked somebody in the audience, who was sitting in the front of the audience, and I was like, what did His Holiness keep doing? Like, why was he bending over? And they said he kept picking something up off the ground and handing it to his security guys who were standing, like the army people sort of in the front of the stage to protect him. And he kept handing them something. And it turned out that he was picking up little caterpillars or other kinds of little itsy-bitsy insects that had made their way onto the stage. And he wanted to make sure that nothing happened to them. So one by one, he would bend down whenever he saw something and pick it up and hand it to his security guys, who clearly were so used to this that they knew immediately what to do and didn't flinch. And they would just put it in the plant. We had plants decorating the front of the stage, and they would just gently put the caterpillar onto a leaf or into the, dirt of the plant. And I've seen that type of thing from so many different masters. Pujya Swamiji, my guru, the guru of many of us here, is just this ocean of love and compassion for people, for animals, for nature, for trees. So the idea of not caring, and that somehow indifference or apathy or aloofness is a quality to be pursued, is not true. When we speak about vairagya, it has nothing to do with contracting or suffocating our beautiful human hearts. What it has to do with is anchoring us in that which is unchanging, that which is divine, that which is eternal. So that which you want to happen happens, great. It doesn't happen, okay. And, going back to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, so many times we've seen in quite literal history with aspects with the Chinese government and the Tibetan people and whatnot, surely there were outcomes that he wanted to happen that are not what have happened, or things that he didn't want to happen that have happened. But you never see him lose himself. You never see him throw a big temper tantrum on the ground or say, forget it, I'm done with this compassion stuff, somebody give me a gun. He never has to check himself into some, mental institution or a detox retreat. It's never a matter of give me 5 minutes to get a hold of myself here. He's an ocean of compassion and grounded, anchored, connected to something that is so deep and so eternal and so unchanging and so infinite that the fluctuations of daily life here on planet Earth don't jolt him. But he's not disconnected because he wants to take care of the caterpillar and the ant and the earthworm. And I've seen the same thing with Pujya Swamiji. Every minute, every moment, it's about how can I help? How can I help a child, a girl, a tree, a sick person, a polluted river? And yet, there's never a moment in which that which he wants to happen doesn't. And so he needs to, take 2 days off to kind of pull himself back together. It's just a matter of, okay, I guess this was God's plan. We'll keep working. But okay, this too is prasad. And that's the teaching for this answer about surrendering to the divine will, even when we have an attachment to an outcome, especially in love, especially in relationships, is you surrender. From the surrender, you get this vairagya, this detachment. But it doesn't mean that you don't care. And especially in our loving relationships, we're always going to care. It's how you remember that you're human. But as time goes by, as your spiritual practice gets deeper and deeper and deeper, you still love the people for them. You want to help them for them. But you don't lose yourself when they don't live or speak or act or think according to what you want. And that's the key piece, is I care, I love them, I'm connected, I'm going to serve, I have compassion, I have all of these beautiful virtues, and I realize it's all in God's hands. What they're going to do, what they're going to say, what they're going to choose, how they're going to live, how they're going to feel. They're going to come to God, not come to God in this lifetime. They're going to let go of drugs. They're not going to let go of drugs. They're going to love me. They're not going to love me. It's all part of the role they're playing in this cosmic drama. And so I surrender. I surrender to the cosmic scriptwriter and the cosmic casting director. And, there is a divine plan here. And I may have written the script differently if I were in charge. But since I'm not, we surrender to it. But we don't stop loving or caring. We just stop losing ourselves when other people's roles are not what we want them to be. And that's the teaching and that's the work. And it's a lot easier said than done. But it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work to undertake, a beautiful path to walk, because we have these opportunities every minute, every moment. Can I love you even though you're driving me crazy? Try that one. Take that one home. I mean, it's a fantastic homework assignment for all of us. Can I stay anchored and grounded and surrendered in the divine will even when this thing that is happening in the world makes me want to scream? That's the spiritual practice, is the yes and. And I surrender to the divine will. And I keep caring. And I keep working. And serving. And surrendering. And rising and working and serving and surrendering. And rising and working and serving and surrendering. And that's where the balance comes in. Beautiful question. Yes, other questions? Yes, please, come. Just share your name and where you're from, and then the question. Namaste. Just 1 second. If you have a question, you can come up to the mic. Yes.
My name is Prachi. I'm coming from France. I belong to Uttarakhand, but I've been living in France for a few years.
Wonderful.
So my question is in continuation to what we were discussing, which a lot of times and a lot of people have come across this question, that being a yogi is not about being passive. The entire Bhagavad Gita took place on a battleground. And like you said, the Dalai Lama has still not picked up a gun. At what point does violence become necessary, or at what point is violence justified?
A very good question and a very difficult question. The Bhagavad Gita is a treatise on Dharma. Dharma has a lot of meanings and a lot of connotations, but right here we'll talk just about two of them. One we'll call, for the sake of brevity, doing the right thing. Integrity, righteousness, the right path, the right way. The other we're going to call your particular role on planet Earth. So fire's dharma is to burn. Water's dharma is to be wet. A mother's dharma is to take care of her children. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, who's the one to whom Krishna is speaking, is a warrior. That is his role on earth. In the Indian society, they've very clearly delineated different roles in society, and over the last many, many hundreds of years, through the invaders, that ended up becoming a divide and rule situation in which they turned something that was a very beautiful sort of division of work into a caste system to create haves and have-nots and division and fighting, and so that they could rule. But it was never meant to be either hereditary or hierarchical. It really just said, in any given society, we need people who are going to be the teachers and the, religious people and the scholars and the poets and the writers. And we need people who are going to make things with their hands. People are going to do pottery. People are going to do woodwork. People are going to build houses. People are going to build toilets. People are going to build schools. And we need people who are going to clean up the mess from that which those who are building are going to inevitably leave. People who will take care of the cleanliness of the civilization, the society. And then we need people who will protect it from invaders. And again, it was never meant to be hereditary, so it was not a matter of what your parents were, you were. It had much more to do with inclination and aptitude. And in one family, you could have a professor and a poet and a warrior and an artisan. And it was never meant to be hierarchical. All are needed. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun's role is a warrior. And Krishna is speaking to him about his dharma as a warrior. And at one point, Arjun says, forget it, I don't want to fight. I'm going to go off to the mountains and I'm going to meditate. Forget the land, forget the kingdom. It is not worth it. Violence is wrong. And Bhagwan Krishna says, not so fast. Your dharma as a warrior is to protect these people and protect the kingdom. The kingdom has now been taken over by Duryodhana, by his family, who are bringing in a reign of darkness, a reign that is causing suffering to the people of the kingdom and the land. You are a warrior. Your dharma is to bring back dharma. He did not say, oh, and by the way, all those sages meditating in caves should get their rear ends down here and join you in the battle. He didn't say, every artisan in town, every potter, every carpenter, every teacher, every poet should get their booties to the battlefield and fight with you. What he said is your dharma, the dharma of your clan, is to fight. For you not to do your dharma, it's like the worst thing. And Arjun said, I could die. And Bhagwan Krishna says, yeah, you could die. But to die on the battlefield fulfilling your dharma is better than living 100 years and not fulfilling your dharma. So it's really important here. Krishna was not saying violence is great, go get them, cut all their heads off. In fact, if you go back through the Mahabharata, the epic in which the Bhagavad Gita is embedded, what you'll see is that Krishna did everything he possibly could to avoid this war. Tried to convince Duryodhana, tried to do whatever he could. When we get blinded by ego, even when God literally looks at us and says, hey, listening to me, here's what you're supposed to do, we ignore it. And this was where the war needed to happen. But it was by no means an endorsement of violence in and of itself. It was by no means an endorsement of everyone should rise up and become violent. It was a teaching around the dharma of those whose dharma it is, in this case, to be the protectors of a society. Now you ask a really interesting question. When is violence justified? There have been innumerable thousands, probably tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of philosophy classes in universities around the world for hundreds of years discussing these sorts of questions. There's no equation, there's no one right answer. But what we know is that as a human species, there are certain situations that we can mostly all agree upon. If right now, in this moment, an armed gunman came in that door and started splaying bullets around this room, and somebody came from behind him and hit him over the head with a book or a rock or a shoe or whatever they happened to have in their hands and knocked him over, I think we would all agree that that violence was justified. That to save the lives of 100 people, giving some guy a bump on the back of his head, or even giving him a concussion, knocking him down, is justified. A lot of people might even agree that killing him was justified. And yet, probably none of us would agree that if you just happened to see a guy walk in with a gun and he didn't actually pull it out and shoot, that it would be justifiable to kill him. We might call our security guards and tell them to get the guy out of here before he started trouble. But I think we'd all agree that shooting him in cold blood while his gun was still in his pocket was uncalled for. But somewhere in between those two, different people are going to differ. The key becomes doing whatever we can do in our capacity with our Dharma to bring as much righteousness, peace, equality, healing, sustainability to the planet. And it's, we've all been given free will. You could take the question further. Should we kill all non-vegetarians? I mean, you could go to extremes, right? Should we kill everyone who wears silk? Well, earthworms die to make their clothes. Every time they go shopping, they're killing earthworms. Do they deserve to die? Most of us would agree, no, they don't. The key for each of us is not to become the one philosopher who solved the issue, but in our own lives to judge, what does my Dharma look like? How can I, in my choices, in what I wear, in what I eat, in the products that I buy, in how I speak, how I earn a living, the political leaders that I support with my vote, the people I follow online who I support with follows or likes or whatever it is, how am I being a part of bringing Dharma, bringing righteousness, bringing nonviolence to the world? And where am I complicit? Where am I reading negative gossip and liking it and paying attention to it? Where am I involved in things that bring harm? And so take the theoretical to the personal. How can I live as nonviolently as possible? If you're walking down the street and you see somebody physically abusing another person, should you have the ability to get them to stop? By all means, it's worth it. Not by blowing their head off. But if you can intervene and you feel comfortable and confident about your strength to intervene, by all means intervene. I've intervened in parents slapping kids. Doesn't always go very well. But at least at the end of the day, you know you've done your part in alignment with what you feel your Dharma is. Every day ask yourself, how can I bring more and more Dharma to the world? It's not by facing violence with violence, but sometimes, violence is is in times, occasionally, something that we can all agree upon is worth it. Yeah, great. Other questions? Yes, her and then you. Come, please. Just one moment, sir. Just 1 second. She was first, and then we'll take you right after that. Yes.
Namaste. So I'm Nadège. I'm French. I live in Belgium. Actually, I need your guidance because I've been questioning myself for quite some time. How can, as a Muslim born, who believes in God, also live sincerely as a Hindu and a yogi?
Can you say this last part again?
Okay. So I need your guidance. So I'm as a Muslim
Yes, a
born.
Muslim mom.
Yeah.
How can you, I got all of the beginning. What was just the last part?
So how can I live sincerely as an Hindu and a yogi?
Ah, beautiful. How, as a Muslim mom, can she also live as a yogi and a Hindu? Well, here's the beautiful thing. The Hindu tradition, the Sanatan Dharma tradition, believes that all paths take us to the same one divine supreme reality. There's nothing in Hinduism that says, oh, you have to worship in this way, or you have to worship in that way. So, number one, be open. Be open to everyone's different way of worshiping, not only the Hindus, but also to the Jews, to the Christians, to the atheists, everyone you meet who's worshiping the divine in different ways. Be open and embracing of everyone's path to the divine. Number two, in Hinduism we believe that the divine is in everything, in everyone, and in everything. The Upanishads tell us this, so many of the scriptures tell us this. So to live as a Hindu is to believe that everyone has that spark of the divine in them. It means also the trees, the leaves, the water, the earth. It's all divine. So we live with a reverence and a care for all of creation. As a yogi, yoga means union. And it's a union of the self, what we call Jiva Atma, to the divine, Paramatma. So live your life in an attempt, a yearning, a path to experience that union, holding the awareness that actually you've never been separate, that you are one with the divine, whether you say Allah or you say Krishna. Either way, that you are one with that divine, not separate, but that you forget. And so your path of yoga is to remember and to come back into remembrance, into remembrance, into remembrance. And raise your children understanding that whether we say Allah, whether we say Krishna, whether we say Christ, whether we say Adonai, whether we say Om, it's all one divine. Whether we say the tree, whether we worship our grandmother, wherever we are worshiping that presence of the divine, it is one. And bring up your child with that love of the divine. Because that love is what's going to turn them into the most, not only happy and peaceful person, but the greatest asset to planet Earth. Yes, beautiful. Yes, last question. I know you've been waiting a long time. Thank you for being so patient.
Namaste. Can I ask question in Hindi?
Yes, sure. I'll repeat it in English for people.
अच्छा, जो मनुष्य जो साधक हैं, जो भगवान कृष्ण की जो परम सुंदर माधुर बात लीलाएँ हैं जो भागवत के दसवें स्कंद में कही गई हैं, हर समय उसका चिंतन स्मरण कीर्तन करते हैं, उसमें ध्यान में लगे रहते हैं, उसमें डूबे रहते हैं, हर क्षण हर प्रतिपल उसका रसास्वादन करने की आकांक्षा करते हैं। और करते 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 और ये कई बार करते 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 उनको ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे कि बस इसके सिवा और कुछ नहीं, उनको प्रेमाभक्ति प्राप्त हो गई है। तो ऐसी अवस्था में क्या कोई ध्यान योग, हठ योग, अभ्यास योग, ज्ञान योग, भक्ति योग करने की आवश्यकता है क्या? क्योंकि अल्टीमेट पर्पज जो है फॉलोइंग ऑल डिसिप्लिन इज टू अटेन द सुप्रीम गॉड, एंड व्हेन दे आर कनेक्ट टू द गॉड बाई जस्ट always मतलब constantly engaged in a beautiful divine pastime of Lord Krishna as stated in दसम स्कंद, तो उसके बाद उनको कुछ और करने की जरूरत है कि नहीं? अब जी मेरा प्रश्न.
Beautiful. So basically he said, if we are deeply devoted to the divine in the form of Bhagwan Krishna, and we spend all of our time just thinking about him and loving him and singing for him and talking about him and his beautiful qualities and his life and all of that, do we have to do anything else, or is that enough? If you do it fully, with not just the mind, but the heart, with not just the words, but the full attention and focus and immersion in that name of the divine, what will happen is out of that, your actions will become the actions of the ones whom he describes so beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita as the yogis, as the wise ones. So automatically, you will become a friend to all. You will live with compassion. You will live with love. You will live with kindness. You will live with equanimity. It'll become part of who you are as the fruit of that divine love. And you will start to serve because you will see Krishna in all. There's a beautiful story of a man who was a great devotee of Bhagwan Krishna. And he was walking home one night on a cold winter night. And along the side of the road there was a beggar. And the beggar said, "I'm so cold, can you please give me something? I'm so cold." And he said, "You have this very warm shawl. Could I please have your shawl? I'm so cold. You're going to a warm house." But the man thought, I still have kind of a little ways to walk before I get to my house, and I don't want to be cold. But he was also a good guy and a devotee, and so he took off his shawl and he tore it in half. And he gave the guy half a shawl and he kept half a shawl. That night he has a dream. And Bhagwan Krishna comes to him in his dream, and he's just so overly thrilled कि भगवान सामने साक्षात darshan de rahe hain. But then he notices that Bhagwan Krishna is there in front of him, wearing half a shawl. And he says to Bhagwan Krishna, he says, "Why are you only wearing half a shawl?" And Krishna says, "Well, that's all you gave me." And it's a beautiful teaching because as we love God, we start to see God in everyone we meet. So is it enough to just chant and sing and repeat? And yes, it is. If it's percolating so deeply within you that जिसको आप देखते हैं सब में भगवान कृष्ण का दर्शन आप करते हैं. अगर केवल मुंह हिल रहे हैं और भीतर में कुछ नहीं हो रहा है तो फिर काफी नहीं है. लेकिन अगर सचमुच आपकी दिल भीग गए भक्ति के रस में तो फिर काफी है, तो फिर बहुत है. Wonderful. What I said lastly in Hindi to him was, if it's just your lips that are moving and your mind is not there and your focus is not there, then no, it's not enough. But if inside you are drenched in that ras, the essence of bhakti, the essence of love for the divine, then you're going to see the divine in all. Then of course, absolutely it's enough. Because through that love, everything else will happen. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow.